You are now tuned into Flippin the Birds, a Philly Sports Network podcast.
What's going on, Eagles fans? Welcome all to episode 65 of Flippin the Birds. I'm Brian Cameron. He's Chris Infante, and today we're joined by a very special guest, Mike Kaye from NJ.com. How you feeling, man?
I'm doing well, and thanks for having me. I always like kind of chatting with you guys, and I've been following your stuff for a little while, so it's kind of cool to talk to you.
Yeah, I've been annoying Chris about getting you on for a while now.
That's why I said it's only kind of cool, not really. But again, guys, thanks for having me. Chris and I have a very similar sense of humor, and Brian, you and I have very similar
dad jokes
in football. So
dad jokes and puns.
Dad jokes and puns.
Listen, I mean, he's not as good as I am, but I'm teaching him.
Ooh, shots fired.
I'm getting there.
You're getting there. You are getting there. I will give you that.
I'm telling you, I've been working on it. I know I've only been a dad for next week will be 1 year.
Oh, congratulations.
And but I've been working on it with my students for 8 years now, and it gets better as far as I know. It gets better.
If it's been 8 years, you've been progressing pretty slowly throughout the years.
It's 8 years. It's like the Doug Pederson offense.
Oof. So do you want to just get into it? We're going to talk about it now.
Let's get into that.
Let's talk about this very vanilla, bland offense that was once how do you say this? It was once great. Honestly, just put it like that. It was like the RPOs, the read options back in the Super Bowl year, like that's completely disappeared. There's no creativity. There's no system, honestly, in place right now. And Mike, obviously, you see it more in the front lines than we do because we see it, in front of our screens. But you're there. How do you view what's going on with the Eagles' offense?
As a very prominent former quarterback said to me the other day, Indianapolis isn't having a problem. So look, I think this is a very
quarterback's 10 years older than Carson Wentz.
Yeah, I mean, look, this is a very easy to read offense from the fact that look, they're clearly designing plays to get one guy open, and that's what the coaches want him to hit. This is not a very elaborate system. It's not very hard to figure out. If you can take away the first read, good luck to the Eagles and their offense, because look, it is bland. I think the sense that I get is they've simplified the offense pretty not effectively, but like essentially they've just very much limited the way they want to call this offense. They want to protect Carson from Carson, and it's not helping. It really isn't. And I think when you look at this situation overall, I don't think the offensive line's helping Carson. I don't think the wide receivers are helping Carson. I don't think the tight ends are helping Carson. I don't think the coaching staff's helping Carson. But all that said, Carson isn't helping Carson. And I think this is like a stew of terribleness. It really is. Like everything that can go wrong with this offense is going wrong, and it's frustrating for people on this team. Look, people are talking. That's what happens when teams are bad, and I can tell you, there's a lot of frustration in that building right now, as there should be. If there wasn't, there'd be a problem. But as one player told me, it's it feels like last season, only they haven't hit their stride yet. You know what I mean? Like they haven't gone through that 4-game winning streak to end the season, so to speak. And look, it's tough. It's tough. This is as frustrating as the fan base is and as confused as the fan base is. I think people internally are just as confused and frustrated.
Isn't that such a wild theory, though, that people internally are just as confused and frustrated? I mean, there's a lot of to me, there's a lot of obvious things that the team could do to take steps in the right direction. Per se, of Alshon Jeffrey, like we spoke before the pod. Even Jason Peters. Like moving on from these old guys, if you're going to be this bad with a young core, getting ready for the future in a sense.
Yeah,
but it's just,
especially when you saw so much promise from Jordan Mailata.
Yes,
and I know he could be like a more athletic Big V, I guess, but it's frustrating to see such progress, and then we get the comments from Doug. Well, he can also learn on the bench. It's and we see Jason Peters get his worst graded PFF game of his career yesterday at Sunday, and
he looks terrible.
It was like 44. And
he actually played well. He played well against the Giants, to give him some credit.
He did. And then a former Giant, Olivier Vernon, just
plowed it. Well, I mean, look, this is one of those situations where I think when you're as a fan, like as an objective observer, it's hard to explain to fans why of this, because the why doesn't necessarily make sense to me. And I think when you look at, I think the fan base would like to win, but win with these young guys. And ideally that's what you'd want to do, a team that's in this situation. It's almost like they're trying to compete as if they think that they can go deep in the playoffs, as opposed to they just have a shot. You know what I mean? Like they don't want to just be happy to be there. And I get that logic from a competitor standpoint, but if you look at the way that this team is crafted, and look, Howie Roseman gets a lot of flack, but I don't know a lot of teams that could go through 9 different iterations of an offensive line and still somewhat be competitive in games. I don't know, how many teams could endure the injuries that this team did have in the first half and still somewhat be manageable. There is a lot of positive here that's underlying so much negative, but like really the offense is the main culprit here. I know a lot of people are on Jim Schwartz's case, and look, they're early on in the season, it looked bleak for the defense, but they played very well to start this first half. Unlike the offense, the defense has kind of figured out what's wrong with them post-bye week. And I think that says a lot about Jim Schwartz as opposed to Doug Pederson, who seems to be struggling to find any sort of answer. You have like 98 assistant coaches and you cannot find an answer. And I think that's a problem because, a lot of people make a big deal out of how many chefs are in the kitchen. Well, if all those chefs in the kitchen were being heard, maybe there'd be a solution. And I don't want to imply that Doug Pederson doesn't listen to his assistants, but it just kind of seems like this offense continues to get more and more stale as more and more voices come in here and different voices come in here. And that's a problem. Look, I've covered some really bad teams. I used to cover for those who don't know, I used to cover the Jaguars before I got here. I did cover their run the AFC Championship game, but before that, I covered the end of the Gus Bradley era, which was, I mean, look, that was something. I do think he would have been significantly more successul here had he gotten hired here as opposed to Chip Kelly.
I was on the Gus bus during that time. I
agree. And I think the whole logic on defensive head coaches versus offensive head coaches is extremely insufficient. But anyway, that's for another show. Look, they're in a rough spot. I'm telling you, Seattle is going to determine the future of this team. It is. I mean, look, if the Eagles turn around and whoop Seattle or even pull off a win at home at night, they're 3-0 at night for some reason. They're football. They're football.
Every time of that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm enjoying that quite a bit. They need to frankly turn into werewolves and
is this supposed to be full moon on Monday? I'm going to check it up right now.
You should, Chris. I mean, we're worried about you turning into a werewolf, but like, look, frankly, like this is it. Like, if they can win this game, if they can split this 4-game, minefield of NFC playoff contenders, you feel really good about them going into those last 2 games against Dallas and Washington. And frankly, they're capable of doing it. I do think they can beat Arizona. I think they're going to beat New Orleans. But Seattle...
Without Drew Brees, I think.
Yeah. Right. But you want Seattle because that could prevent a tailspin. And, there are a lot of people calling for Jalen Hurts. I would not be shocked if there are people internally who are calling for Jalen Hurts and think, once they get out of the race, maybe it's time for Carson to have a restart and you're not going to trade him, but maybe you let him chill out for the rest of the year, figure things out, get mentally right, and then you kind of salvage this project in the offseason with also knowing what you have in Jalen Hurts. So I don't know, man. It's going to be interesting.
Well, first of all, November 30th is Monday, and it is a full moon. It is full moon on Monday. I just looked it up.
Oh, I thought this year
it is the 30th on Monday. So
wow! I thought it was the first. I thought it was
Tuesday.
Oh, wow.
30
Oh, wait,
days
no,
by
that's
September equals June and November.
Oh, that's right. I've got to get an ultrasound on my quad on
fun.
the first.
That's
Yeah.
interesting.
Fun.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I tore it or sprained it while playing with my kid like a month ago, and then re-injured it while I was at the facility like last week. But anyway, I digress.
I have a urologist appointment on the 11th for my kidney stone that hasn't come out yet. So that's there you go. Brian, you got anything coming up?
Absolutely not. Actually,
Okay.
I'm quite healthy for some weird reason.
Wow, this turned into a really awkward injury report.
But next, there are also players around the league calling for Jalen Hurts.
Oh,
and
please
I'm
don't
not
bring up
sure if you
DK. Don't
saw
do it.
that, but Jordan Schultz asked if it's time for Jalen Hurts time, and DK Metcalf commented on it saying yes. So there are players around the league.
But is it like they wouldn't really be in my opinion, they wouldn't really be better with Jalen Hurts. Like you're ruining another player, in my opinion. Like he doesn't have an offensive line. Hurts has shown that he's not capable of getting a snap off without fumbling it. He has about like 3 or 4 fumbles in the season?
Don't tell Doug Pederson that. He'll blame it on the offensive line.
That's not. And then all these highlights are going off of Jalen Hurts and in college, and most, if not all, of those plays are him on the move, and that's something that Doug is not doing right now. And then in his press conference, he says, "Well, I schemed up some.
I could do more of it.
Out of the pocket plays, but it was checked out at the line for a run." And then we look at the second half on Sunday and say, "Whoa, you guys only ran it 2 times, like a few times. So how many times did you dial up out of the pocket play for it to be checked out?" So I just feel like there's so much disconnect right now from everybody, and it's very frustrating. And it's turned into a bad football team. And I just feel like if this offense can't get it going against a defense that's averaging 370 something yards allowed per game right now, if not more. If you can't get it going against them, then there's some issues. Like I likened it. I don't know if it was last week or the week before. So like that Netflix show Nailed It, where you I don't know if you've seen it.
I've never seen it.
It's like it's the play on that phrase "nailed it," like, and you really didn't nail it, and they show you, okay, you need to bake this. And it's like one of those designs, like those people like they make a
bake-off competition,
like those bake-off, like they make a gingerbread house or like they'll make a cake fort or some shit, like, and it's the worst thing that comes out of the oven. It's on Netflix, and I feel like that's the Eagles' offense right now. Like you have all
Sounds like a terrible show.
It does sound pretty terrible.
It's an absolutely awful show, and it's like or a really bad episode of Chopped. Like here are all the ingredients for you. All right. And make something out of this. And here's Scangarello, like, here are my ingredients. Here's Marty. Here are my ingredients. Here's Princeton. Here are my ingredients. And Doug's like, I have this over here that I'm going to use instead.
And Doug is also saying that they ran out of red zone plays early on in the season. Like this is just, to me, it starts with the guy on top. At the end of the day, I mean, he hasn't been successful with Wentz since 2017, and to no coincidence, Indianapolis is not in the same position. Nick Foles, though, is still in the same position. He's just as bad. So it's obviously like,
well, he's not in Indianapolis.
No, I know that, but I'm saying he's just as bad in Chicago.
That's my point, though. Like I think Reich,
pretty big influence.
A pretty big influence, yeah. I mean,
Reich has his boy there, though. He has his San Diego guy there. So there's some film him and Rivers.
Yeah. Sorry, I thought you were. Yeah. I mean, look, it's worked out, and look, Reich was not a very good offensive coordinator when he was in San Diego. Really,
he wasn't.
So, people change, people evolve.
Except for Doug.
Yeah. Well,
that's he may be evolving, but it may be like
going back to his original form.
It might be Gyarados back into a Magic Club at this point.
Yeah. I mean, look, I think. Look. This is supposed to be an offensive, dynamic team. They're anything but. And look, wide receivers are running bad routes. Tight ends are actually doing pretty well.
They're the whole offense right now, pretty much.
Right, but that's a problem. Yeah. You don't want your tight end. Like, that's the thing. A lot of people – look, Zach Ertz, I'm a guy who thinks that a lot of people take him for granted. I also don't know how you pay Dallas Goedert right now. Just based on what he's shown the first 3 years. He's looked great in a lot of moments.
But he's often injured.
He's often injured. I wouldn't say he's very consistent. He'll go from having 4 catches for 33 yards to having 5 catches for 77 yards and a touchdown, and then he'll have 2 catches for 22 yards. You know what I mean? So it's like, look, Richard Rodgers being number 2 on your team in receiving yards is not a good look. It's not.
We don't like Big Rod season?
No, I think it's great. I like Richard quite a bit, but I think you drafted a kid in the first round. He's been targeted 11 times in 3 games since he's returned. You look at, when Greg Ward's getting 10 targets in 2 games, and your first round picks had 11 in 3 games when he's playing a significant amount more snaps. That's a problem.
The screen passes and Jalen Reagor is.
Yeah, listen, Jalen Reagor was killing folks on screens.
Mm-hmm.
Or not on screens, on slant routes. Like killing. I've never seen a rookie just own a route like he has, like on slants. Also running 9 routes, running posts. Like that's what he should be doing. And it's either they're afraid to let the routes develop and give that time because of the offensive line and Carson, or they don't know how to use Jalen Reagor. And I actually kind of think it's a bit of both. You went out of your way to spend on speed. Listen, John Hightower's played like 4 snaps in the last 2 games. He's been targeted 3 times in the last 3 weeks after having a 59-yard catch that essentially locked up that Giants game. It's one of those things. And you look at Travis Fulgham. Here's the thing. This is how you know that there's an issue. Is Travis Fulgham caught 29 passes for 435 yards and 4 touchdowns in 5 games. Since the bye, he's caught 2 catches. He's had 2 catches for 16 yards. I think he's been targeted. I want to say he's been targeted.
I'd say
times.
more. Last wasn't yesterday or Sunday. 8, I think 8 times. 7
times. But here's the thing: he wasn't targeted until 8:55 left in the 3rd quarter.
Right.
We always talk about getting quarterbacks and running backs and tight ends in rhythm. Well, you got to get your wide receivers in rhythm. And when a guy's been running, look, he played 96% of the plays. He ran probably like 30 routes before getting his first target. Like that's just not acceptable. Especially when he's dominating. But look, he's not a well-kept secret anymore. Defenses are planning for him, and he's been covered, which is in turn kind of messed with Carson because Carson's been really. Look, he's got to make that first read, right? And if you take away that first read, rough.
And it's a wrap.
Then it's just chaos.
It's become such a terrible and very toxic situation. So kind of just dialing it back to talk. Speaking about Wentz, it's the biggest debate on social media right now, and within media members alike as well. You actually bench your franchise quarterback for a rookie that may not even be ready at this point.
Well, I don't think it's the right answer right now. I wouldn't have benched him this week. I get it. I think if they lose to Seattle, you bench him.
Okay.
That's where I'm at. If he doesn't bomb and the defense just gives up a ton, that's not on him. But, if you're out of the league, here's the thing. Before the majority of the team sits down for Thanksgiving dinner, they're either going to be trailing Washington or Dallas, barring a tie. And from there,
it depends on who you talk. Some people have an early dinner, 3:00, 4:00.
Right. I said the majority.
I'm pretty sure I'm going to my mother-in-law's by like noon on Thursday. So it's not like I grew up with a 6 p.m. Thanksgiving.
Yeah, I did too. I was aware.
Now it's like 3, 4 o'clock. These damn Italians and Germans. I don't know, man.
Anyway, okay, that was a weird segue. But yeah, I'll close out with this because I gotta run soon. But what were we talking about? I got so confused.
Carson Wentz and benching him.
The Allied powers over here, but the axis of evil. Yeah, Carson. I don't think it's the right move right now, but I think inevitably if they don't end up going to Hurts, I think Doug Pederson is only going to pay the price and not Carson Wentz. Look, you can't trade Carson Wentz.
Yeah, it's going to be a very tough situation. I think they only saved like $800,000 for getting rid of Wentz. And
and look, you've got a $60 million cap hole at minimum.
You're not taking a $33 million dead cap hit, no matter how much you're saving $800,000.
Yes,
you're also accelerating a lot of that money.
Yeah, so it's not happening.
But here's the thing. So, let me put it to you this way. Chris, you're Jeffrey Lurie. You have me come into your office after the season. You know how much you respect Howie Roseman. And you want to hear from Doug Pederson about why he didn't take Howie Roseman's built-in, proactive insurance policy when he had the opportunity. Because here's the thing. If Jalen Hurts plays well, you're a QB guru again. Your offense is terrific.
The factory's back.
The factory
booming.
is booming. Look, the assembly line is working.
Stocks are back up.
But if Carson continues to regress and the offense continues to look terrible, that's all immediately on one guy. That's not on the GM. That's on the head coach.
It's on the head coach, yep.
The guy who won't give up play calling, the guy who's supposed to be this quarterback developer, this guy who refuses to do certain things to play to his quarterback strengths. That's on him. And I think that's what we need to keep in mind for these final 6 games. And on that note, I'm out.
Thank you for coming on today, Mike. We appreciate it.
Mike.
Have a good one, guys.
You too. Take care.
So.
Bye.
All right, so there you have it. I mean, it's at the end of the day, it's gonna fall on Doug. I mean, there's no way they bench Wentz, in my opinion. I truly feel like, if Hurts was ready, we would have already seen some type of heavier usage for Hurts during games, but we're not seeing that. We're not even seeing usage of Miles Sanders.
I mean, I agree with Mike. I think if it's not a shootout Monday, if it's not
it can't be a shootout because the Eagles can't shoot.
I'm just saying, if it's not Wilson versus Wentz Monday, and it's more Wilson versus the Eagles defense, and it's not Wilson doing something and Wentz answering, and then back and forth, and Wentz is not doing anything against a defense that's allowing the most passing yards in the league right now. Seattle's allowed 3,437 yards right now. That's an average of 343.7 passing yards per game. The next highest is Atlanta, 300. So Seattle's average allowing half of a field more.
But here's the thing. The Eagles were not supposed to be eaten alive by the defensive line of the Cleveland Browns without Myles Garrett.
Yeah, we know that. But now we might see a Seattle pass defense that is going to destroy the Eagles now, because you're so without Myles Garrett last week, we were supposed to see an offensive line keep Wentz up, and that didn't happen. We saw safety, God damn it, that killed me. And now we're seeing a Seattle team that is really good on offense. We're facing the biggest what-if Eagle of all time in DK Metcalf, and then Tyler Lockett kills the Eagles every time.
Oh God.
So, and now we're facing one of the best dual-threat quarterbacks of all time in Russell Wilson.
So I have a quick question before you go on. And we'll be bringing on Mookie Alexander of SB Nation's Field Goals very soon to talk Eagles and Seahawks. But to pick your brain, if you're Jeffrey Lurie, to go back to Mike, how do you look at the DK Metcalf, JJ Arcega-Whiteside situation?
Well, I will tease that in February we have a big interview. I'm not going to say who. Big interview that dives into J-Jaw pick, but that's for February.
Who was inactive?
Who's inactive every week now. He's going to be inactive for the rest of the year probably, unless there's another injury. But I think Doug and Howie go. I think right now it's Doug is first, and the whole coaching staff, I think. If they're making a change, they're making a full change, because the next person that comes in as head coach is not going to want to keep Shorts there. It's not going to keep anybody there. Maybe Moorhead's, because when they switched from Tripp to Doug, they kept from some. They kept. Coaches,
they're definitely keep Stoutland.
They kept Stoutland throughout. They kept Corey Undlin, and I believe they kept Ken Flaholi. I think.
Yeah, he's been there for a while.
So maybe Moorhead stays. Maybe Marco Emmanuel stays. So maybe Justin Peel stays as the tight ends coach. Maybe it's some of the coaches that have had success but not the big Deuce wouldn't be here.
You don't think Deuce will be here
with a new head coach now?
Wait, the running back situation hasn't been.
I know. But
that kind of hurt my soul a little bit. I'm not gonna lie.
I think the assistant head coach would also go.
Okay.
Because that's what Deuce is like a head coach, new head coach. Not gonna come like he's not my assistant head coach. Like no. Maybe it happens. Maybe it doesn't.
Do you think the Eagles will fire Doug Pederson mid-season and Deuce will actually get the reins?
No, Doug's. The only thing that happened that would happen maybe last game of the season, like they did with Chip and Pat Shermer. But I think maybe if Eric Bieniemy comes in, since he was a running back,
or maybe Joe Brady,
maybe he keeps Deuce. But that's for later down the line. But I think Doug would go first to see if it was a coaching problem.
Mm-hmm.
If it was a personnel problem, then Howie. Then because you're locked into Carson.
So in your opinion, there's no absolute way that the Eagles move on from Carson. I think
the most that happens this year is he gets benched, which happens against the Saints if he doesn't show up against the league's worst pass defense.
Okay.
And if he doesn't, then you'll see the really struggles going on, and he needs to sit down and get his head right. But I think it's Carson's the quarterback. The Eagles will not be able to justify. Imagine the questions that the head coach gets now in Doug Pederson about Wentz's play calling. Imagine what they'll get if he's completely benched next year. Hey, how do you justify having $30-something million backup quarterback?
That would be the wildest thing in the world. That's why I'm like, all quarterbacks have down seasons. Like, correct me if I'm wrong, but it leads to them having coaching changes, which leads to them having a revival in their career.
We just saw Carson Wentz's first 4 years as one of the best in league history.
Correct.
Now we're seeing a really bad season. It's not uncommon, but it's like a really bad season. But he needs the opportunity to show that it's just a mirage.
It's just a bad season. And just to look at it, Carson Wentz's career numbers: 16,000 passing yards, 63% completion percentage, which isn't bad. 111 touchdowns. He has a 4.6 touchdown percentage, 49 interceptions, 2.0 interception percentage, and a passer rating of 89. It's not a terrible quarterback. It really isn't.
His first 4 seasons. 14,191 yards, 97 touchdowns, 35 interceptions, 63.8% completion rating, 92.7 rating, 785 rush yards, and only I think three rushing touchdowns. So, and I did a little cherry picking. There's only, and this was back in May. We don't want to keep Mookie hanging out. There's only one – this is back in May 20th. There's only one quarterback in the NFL history who started 56 or more games in the first 4 seasons and had 90 or more touchdowns, 35 or less interceptions, 14,000 passing yards, and has averaged more than 250 yards per game. Very cherry-picked stats, but whatever, and it's Carson Wentz. So, he
deserves a second chance.
We can't let one season we've seen inconsistent, even with and I go back to Ruben Frank, who had this point. I think Frank Reich's he was the answer for Wentz in 2017.
He was the Wentz whisperer.
So was DiFilippo.
Mm-hmm.
But since then, we've seen pretty good seasons from Wentz in 2018, 2019 without those guys.
He still carried a practice squad team to the playoffs.
Right. So we need to see if it's just a bad coaching job right now. Because I know Mitchell Trubisky is bad, and he still is bad, but Mitchell Trubisky as a rookie under John Fox was really fucking bad.
Mm-hmm.
Then we see him the next year with Matt Nagy.
He was pretty good under Nagy.
And he was a Pro Bowler.
Yeah.
So Carson Wentz deserves to have a new coach come in and be like, I can do this for you, and let's see if that happens. And if it doesn't happen, then 2022, Wentz is gone.
Yeah, I completely agree.
But you know what else should be gone? Your hair downstairs with Manscaped.com. Manscaped.com is having a Black Friday sale, 25% off, plus free shipping off every site-wide. You add in our code FTB, it's another 20% off. How can you beat that?
I love Manscaped. I'm not gonna lie.
If you let's say you get the Lawnmower 3.0 package, the whole package, $100, 25% off. It's down to $75. You get another 20% off. That's another $50. You get the whole thing for $60.
You can't beat that.
Can't beat that. You know what else you can't beat? Beer from not lots
From
they're mixed up. Beer from Tavour.com. Tavour.com, Tavour. Use our promo code FTB10. Get beer delivered to your door. My package is coming tomorrow.
I think my package is actually coming on Thanksgiving. Do they deliver on Thanksgiving?
I don't think so, but remember, you got to be 21.
What do you mean you don't think so?
I don't think so. It sucks to suck, man. I'm getting mine tomorrow. But, when they deliver, you do have to sign for it to make sure someone's home.
It says estimated delivery through Thursday, November 26th.
I'm going to check my...
don't give me no, I don't think so. But that's FTB10 on Tavour.com. Get the finest of craft beers and the rarest of craft beers. Now we're going to bring Mookie Alexander from SB Nation's Field Goals.
Oh, now it says Friday.
You see, you jinxed it.
The fuck, man.
Let's see. Here we go. Hey, Mookie, what's going on, man?
What's up?
How you feeling today?
All right. Just got all the errands out of the way because I sure as hell don't want to go on Wednesday, the day before Thanksgiving, to get all this shit done.
Nobody ever does. And Chris,
I'm sorry. I'm reading. I'm a teacher.
Are you panicking?
I'm a teacher. I'm reading an email from that we might be going virtual next week. So let's. Okay.
Oh, interesting.
Okay. All right. So
let's talk Seahawks. Let's talk Eagles. Let's talk about the rematch of the game that never really was because Wentz was out in the first half because of concussion.
Oh, man. Well, I don't know what it is about Carson Wentz that leads to him getting injured the one season that he's healthy for the regular season. I mean, it was a bad hit by Clowney that knocked him out, and Clowney's not here anymore. So
yeah, screw that guy.
Is he on IR?
He's on IR.
He is on IR, and the Titans paid $20-something million to Clowney and Vic Beasley to get 0 sacks.
That's
you truly
terrible.
hate to see it.
Yeah.
Throughout the whole offseason, I said, we don't need Clowney, we have Josh Sweat.
Oh, Sweat has looked tremendous this season.
But yeah, this is a fascinating game because in theory, to be a total homer, the Seahawks should be heavily favored to win this. But,
the fact that they're only favored by 5 is mind-boggling.
Yeah, but it's a Seahawks football, and they have a distinct hatred of winning comfortably these days. They used to win by blowouts. I mean, they won the Super Bowl 43-8, but these last couple of years, it's like they're trying to win by 2 to 7 points on purpose. Like I don't understand. It's a miracle that they beat the Niners as comfortably as they did. But with the Seahawks, that Cardinals game rather was a must-win because if they had lost that game, they probably would have been toast for the NFC West. I think it would have been really hard to catch both the Rams and Cardinals over the next 5 weeks. Mm-hmm. But now that they've won, they're at least tied for first because the Rams ended up beating the Bucs. And as long as they can win over these next 4 games, I like their chances to win this division. And ideally, if the Rams can stumble a couple of times, then they could even win it without having to beat the Rams. But within the context of this game, it's a road game, but there's going to be a lot of rest because they played on a Thursday. And they're getting some guys back. They've got Shaquille Griffin, our starting corner, is going to return from injury. You've got Chris Carson coming back from injury, and that is a must because the running game when Carson and Carlos Hyde were out, not very good. And Ethan Posick, our starting center, he's going to return, so we don't have to have our rookie right guard, Damian Lewis, play center for the second week in a row. Mm-hmm. So Seattle is getting healthier, which is bad news for Philadelphia. But the Eagles' pass rush could be a problem for the Seahawks because right tackle Brandon Shell is going to have a hard time making it to that game with an ankle injury. So I'm always worried that Brandon Graham and those other dudes are just going to try and wreak havoc, and Fletcher Cox especially, on Russell Wilson because Wilson is a magician, but he also typically gets sacked a lot. And even with the emphasis on a better offensive line, he's been getting sacked a lot this year again.
It's going to be very hard to catch Russell Wilson. I mean, the Eagles have not done well against running quarterbacks, as you can see with Lamar Jackson, as you can see with Daniel Jones.
They've never beaten Russell Wilson. So
and that's another thing that really irks me. Like, we have never beaten the Seahawks, but bad things happen in Philadelphia, and the Seahawks will be visiting the Eagles on Monday Night Football.
Yeah, it's going to be a bad football team in Philadelphia in the Eagles. Like,
listen, man. And look, if there's one thing that this football season has taught me is that anything is truly possible. I mean, who would have thought DeAndre Hopkins would have caught a Hail Mary with 3
I mean, everybody would have thought DeAndre Hopkins would have – DeAndre Hopkins.
But not that kind – a Hail Mary, really?
He's going to catch anything. Like, he's like – He has the hands. He has stickum on his gloves.
He was actually a former Eagle. Do you know that?
He's the best former Eagle outside of Frank Gore.
Oh man.
But Chris
My-
Carson does put some fear in my heart as well because, I mean, for some reason, the Eagles' defense is – not for some reason, for the linebacker reason, the Eagles' defense is terrible against the run.
Yeah, I saw that the running game for Cleveland was doing all right.
Oh, God.
In other words, the Eagles' run defense was holding them for a bit. Like Kareem Hunt finished with negative rushing yards, if I can remember correctly.
Mhm.
And then Nick Chubb just breaks one, and that's good night. But
Yeah.
And then Nick Chubb sent Joe Ostman to the moon with a stiff arm.
Oh, God.
But then
And-
Joe Ostman made the tackle. He made the tackle.
But
He got
Kareem
up,
Hunt leaped over the moon.
and then, yeah, and then
Jalen
Kareem
Mills.
Hunt, and then Jalen Mills
With no
decided to
speed.
just, he just decided to do this, and then he just jumps over
It
him.
was like a failed hit stick move in Madden. Like, I could not believe that. We are literally the most hurdled team this decade.
oh, that's right, because Ayuk did it to you guys when the Niners played, right?
You can
And Chris
see,
Carson's done some hurdles.
I think this is the first year that it really hasn't happened every week.
It's starting to catch up to us.
Like last year, I had a scheduled tweet every week. The Eagles are the most hurdled team in the league because you saw Vernon Davis do it, you saw Saquon Barkley do it, you saw Ezekiel Elliott do it, you saw everybody do it, and it's just like because these Eagles defenders were taught to just just try and tackle this 250-pound monster with your shoulders.
Mhm.
And then they go down, and then these guys are like, okay, I'll just jump over you. And like old man Vernon Davis,
Oh, my God. That hurdle was
Come
over
on.
three defenders.
it was over Sendejo, and like who's still bad and still a douchebag, but it's like it. Usually, I try to get some optimism for any game, but I can't find any for this. Despite that, Seattle's defense is letting Uncle Rico pass for 500 yards a game. But I just, like you said, like Shaquille Griffin's healthy, and you guys are getting a little healthier on defense, and now you get Carlos Dunlap, who has been revitalizing his career apparently on your defensive line, and he'll play the Eagles for the second time this year. Once as the Bengals and now on the Seattle. Like it's just I can't find any optimism. And we asked everybody each week this. Is there do you see something on this Eagles offense against your bad pass defense? It is bad. That gives you some pause as to Seattle whooping our ass.
I really can't see what the way Wentz has been playing. I mean, he went from legitimate MVP candidate 3 years ago to one of the worst quarterbacks in the league. And I saw the interception he threw against the Browns, the first one. In fact, both were terrible. It's just that the pick six was like, that's a high school quarterback level throw.
Mhm.
Second one was more Alshon Jeffrey.
Yeah,
he
terrible.
seemingly stopped his route, I guess. I mean,
Alshon Jeffrey's jump attempt.
He would jump before the ball was even thrown.
He was like, if you're playing basketball and someone's about to shoot, and you just like jump up to like pretend to block it. It was that.
Mm-hmm. You thought we wouldn't catch on, but we caught on. We saw it. We saw that lack of effort.
Yeah, I'm surprised he's still healthy enough to even jump, so that's impressive for him. But I guess the one area you can attack with Seattle is they love to give up so much space underneath. They've been getting beaten over the top, but Wentz has just been so inaccurate with his deep passes that I don't think it's going to be something that the Seahawks will be too worried about. Trey Flowers would be the other starting corner, and even though he's been better these last couple of weeks, he's clearly a massive liability for Seattle. Like he's not anywhere near the level of Sherman or Browner, and certainly he's basically what Byron Maxwell was on Philadelphia. He's just the mark every week.
That means Trey Flowers will have 2 interceptions. That's literally what that means.
Well, you know what? He did pick off Wentz last year. I forgot about that. But this year he's just been so bad. And he just, because he's so foot slow, he likes to give up like 10, 15 yards of space because he doesn't want to get beat over the top.
So he's Jalen Mills.
Yeah, essentially a bigger Jalen Mills. And he was a safety in
Or
college.
Vontae
And
Maddox.
they converted him to corner. And it's just not worked out. Like the first year, there were growing pains, but you could see some good things. But now it's year 3, and it's like, yeah, I don't see how he gets another year. And the reason why he's starting is because Dunbar is injured, and he's going to be on IR for a couple more weeks. And Dunbar, when he played against Buffalo, he had one of the worst games from a cornerback I have ever seen, but it was evidently.
You haven't seen Eagles games.
Yeah, his knee was a mess, so they had to sit him for a bit. And they traded for Dunbar because they wanted to replace Flowers in the starting lineup. And then Dunbar Winton may or may not have gotten himself involved in a
Yeah,
party gone wrong, but everybody's
Pretty much.
cleared. All the
Hanging out
charges
with
are
DeAndre
dropped.
Baker.
Yeah, the attorneys are the ones who are in trouble. But yeah, I think that the Dunlap acquisition for Seattle has been tremendous because the pass rush has just been lousy ever since they traded Frank Clark. And Dunlap is providing that edge rush and interior rush that has really been lacking throughout the season. But for the Eagles offense, if you can run the ball successfully on Seattle, and that's been really hard to do, maybe that could open things up, because otherwise I'm looking at the Eagles offense and I don't recognize it. I've been theorizing the last couple of weeks how much of this is really just Frank Reich was the real brain trust.
And that's what I want to ask you about really quick, Mookie, because
Hold on.
what do you mean hold on? Time out.
Carlos Dunlap. Here's a fun fact. Carlos Dunlap, his high in tackles this season is 9 as an edge rusher. 9 tackles
Against the Eagles.
It came against the Eagles.
Okay. So
that's a great fact.
9 total tackles. One of them were for loss. 1 QB hit and 1 pass deflection in 75 snaps.
Yeah, it's not good. You guys have had Pete Carroll for pretty much all of Russell Wilson's career. And through the bad, through the good, somehow, some way, the offense has been somewhat consistent where, not to a point where you kind of question your quarterback or you question the head coach. Right now, the Eagles are in a position where, as you mentioned, Carson Wentz has regressed to the point where he's one of the worst quarterbacks in the league. But also, looking at the offense is probably the worst offense in the league because there's no creativity. They're not putting the players in position to win. So looking at this from a different, point of view, how do you actually look at this Eagles team and say, hey, we can still we can still get the best out of Wentz, but how will we get the best out of Wentz at this point? I guess my question is.
Well, it seems like the Eagles offense has been figured out because all that RPO stuff that was working so well with Wentz and Foles, now the whole league is doing it, and they also know how to stop it. It seems like very much a timing-based, easy throws offense, but Wentz, it feels like he's trying to do too much, and he just overcompensates and makes some really bad decisions. And for somebody who's a pretty good athlete, he looks so terrified under pressure, and he takes some bad sacks, hangs in there too long, and then when he does want to throw, he kind of panics too much. So I don't know if that can be coached out of him necessarily, but from what I've seen out of this Eagles offense is just the lack of continuity certainly hurts. And also the offensive line is not even a little bit good. Like Jason Peters, I guess you guys let him go and then re-signed him on an emergency.
Yeah,
because
he left.
Get rid of.
He left. He came back as right guard, Jason Peters, and then he wanted more money to go back to tackle because Andre Dillard got hurt. And then Doug said it's not going to happen because Jason Peters is going to do what's best for the team. He's going to stay at guard. And the next thing you know, he's getting a $5 million raise to play left tackle. And it's all fun in Philadelphia. It's all fun.
Bad things happen in Philadelphia.
It's all funny in Philadelphia. It's not all funny in Philadelphia. It's all funny.
That's a good reference. I should add the Eagles wide receiver situation is just a mess because Deshaun Jackson's obviously incapable.
I forgot he was on the team still. Wow.
Yeah, I guess he's on IR still. I mean, I thought that he broke his ankle in the first Giants game, but yeah, he's still alive. But Fulgham, I don't hear his name as much these last couple of weeks, but he was like an early sensation. I haven't heard anything about Jalen Reagor other than the touchdown in the Cowboys game. And then Arcega Whiteside exists, I suppose.
No, I mean, he's inactive most of the times these days.
He hangs out under umbrellas.
I gotta admit, I wanted to draft Arcega Whiteside. I wanted the Seahawks to draft him.
Wow.
Instead of DK Metcalf, can we make a trade? Can we trade?
Let's talk about this though. Like, why? So let's pick your brain. Why did you want the Seahawks to go with JJ?
I thought he was that big-bodied receiver, athletic receiver that the Seahawks needed, and it turns out they got Metcalf instead because I think Arcega Whiteside went ahead of him. So when they got Metcalf, I was cautiously optimistic.
We know, Mookie. We know.
Yeah. I was cautiously optimistic that Metcalf would work out, and he's better than I ever thought he would be already.
He's phenomenal.
In 2 years. Like he is like, I don't like the Julio Jones comparison necessarily. I think he's closer to Calvin Johnson. Okay. And he's just an athletic freak, not just physically, but the fact that he's able to school Patrick Pederson off the line of scrimmage like he did on the Thursday game, and then it didn't count because of the stupid penalty. But he's able to win jump balls. His speed in the open field is special. It's like a guy that big, like Randy
Shouldn't
Moss,
be that fast.
He shouldn't be able to be that fast.
Yeah.
So it's really helped elevate the Seahawks offense. And I know the common thing is that the quarterback makes the receiver, but sometimes it is a two-way partnership. Elite receiving talent matters so much. And I'm not really seeing it on the Eagles side. So it's not to totally, defend Wentz per se, but I just don't see a lot of great talent on the Eagles offense. And that seems like a failure of management more than anything else.
And we completely agree with you. And what I admire most about the draft pick of DK Metcalf is that the moment the kid was drafted, you saw him and Russell Wilson getting together and actually practicing with each other nonstop and building that rapport where they knew Metcalf was going to be your top wide receiver. Like they were building for that anticipation. And it's led to this incredible receiver who's probably going to end up being a once-in-a-generation receiver at this point, the way he's playing. And like you mentioned, you don't see that in Philadelphia right now. Travis Fulgham was a great sensation so far, but for some reason they've gone away from him. Jalen Reagor, they're not using him to his strengths. And our biggest deep threat hasn't seen the field for more than one snap in the past 2 games, I believe.
Yeah, you bring up Metcalf, and he just has, I think, that key trait for any player, regardless of sport, if you have a desire to be better. And I think he genuinely wants to be better because there were some issues with drops, and they haven't totally gone away this season. You had the silly fumble at the goal line against Dallas. He just got caught hot dogging it. And then a couple of weeks later, he makes one of the greatest chase down plays I've ever seen in my life, running down Buda Baker. So
that was me as a kid chasing down the ice cream truck. like that was me. I was inside my house, like, "Ma, let's go. I need some money." And then all of a sudden, I hear go like Mr. Softy trucks. They were going down the truck, and I'm running outside, like, "No, come back!" And but DK actually caught it. I never caught it.
So your efforts are more like a man trying to go after the UPS truck carrying them PS5s.
Oh yeah, that's definitely it. I was hogging mine when they were delivering it, and it says specifically that somebody had to sign for it. They left it on my front porch while it was raining, and my wife just happened to open the door at the exact time that they're dropping it off. So I'm a little sour about that.
Damn, I should have stopped by and took it.
No, absolutely not, man. You would have ruined my life.
That's fine.
Timing is everything.
Timing is everything. And unfortunately, the Eagles do not have timing with anything.
Speaking of time.
Let's go for it.
Make sure you go to LaTourine.com, LA_TOURINE.com for your watch needs. FTB 10% off. Black Friday sales. They're slashing prices. We were supposed to have a Red Crest giveaway today, but some of you motherfuckers did not do anything.
Damn.
Contest, so we're gonna extend it to next week, assholes. But anyway, so
please don't get Chris mad, please, guys.
LaTourine.com. The free watch, enter the contest. It's a free watch. And you can just be like, hey, look at this $200 watch I bought you. You're in. But whatever. Anyways, so Mookie, I'm not sure how long you've been following the Seahawks. We have one of your guys on the defensive side. We have Marco Emmanuel, a former Seattle guy.
Oh yeah.
How and we've seen some improvements in defensively. How did you see his time in Seattle, and what does he like? Have you ever seen him as maybe a defensive coordinator at some point? Maybe more. Is he how is he in Seattle, and what should we have expected? Should have seen so far if he's has the reins to the DBs?
Yeah, I remember Marquand Manuel because I've been a Seahawks fan more than half my life. So I moved there, moved to the Seattle area the year that they made it to the Super Bowl. And of course, this was before the season even started. So I was like a good luck charm. And then I don't live there anymore. And literally the year after I left Washington is the year they won the Super Bowl. So I could have been there for the parade, and instead I'm just on the other side of the country. But now I'm back on the West Coast, and hopefully I can bring that big charm again. But yeah, Marquand Manuel, he was a reserve safety, I think, when he was in Seattle. He didn't play that long with the team. He started in the Super Bowl because Ken Hamlin had gotten injured. I don't remember if he was injured or if he was shot or assaulted in that nightclub incident back in downtown. But when he got injured in the Super Bowl, we had to go to the reserve safety, and he's the one who took the shitty angle on Willie Parker that led to the big touchdown run. So ever since then, I know that Manuel was a defensive assistant with Pete Carroll, both in 2012 and 2013. And then he did some secondary coach work. So those are the lean years, not just for the Seahawks defense, but also the Seahawks special teams. So you can understand why Dan Quinn wanted to have him as a defensive coordinator in Atlanta. He seems to have a bright football mind. But I think we've seen enough of the Falcons defense to realize that nothing really worked there. Or at least it works 80% of the time. It's that last 20% that they just decide. I don't feel like defending.
It's those 3 quarters plus, and then all of a sudden, not so much.
So here's something that hasn't worked for quite some time. Carson Wentz versus Seattle, 0 for 4, 4 touchdowns, 5 interceptions, 3 fumbles lost.
1 concussion.
1 concussion.
Yeah, that is something. I mean, it's a hell of a stat because the Vikings have never beaten the Seahawks either with Wilson at quarterback, but they came really close this year. I mean, they've had different starting quarterbacks. They had Christian Ponder, Bridgewater, and then Cousins, but never been able to beat them. Now with the Eagles, I remember all the Wentz games. I think the first year, I think it was his rookie season. That was the game that I think Earl Thomas got hurt, but yeah, the Eagles just couldn't do anything on offense, and Russell Wilson ended up catching a touchdown. Now the next year,
that was 2017, I think.
2016.
Yeah, so
was it 2016 or 2017?
Because 2017 was the Super Bowl year, and that was, I think, the last full game Wentz started before he tore his ACL, and the Seahawks defense was able to shut him down then. Last year, they shut him down in the regular season, and then unfortunately injured him in the playoffs.
17-9 both games.
Yeah, 17-9 both games. I would be shocked if the Seahawks is capable of holding any team to under 20 points at this point because they haven't
never say no.
Yeah, we can't score over 20 points.
You might be shocked.
Well, I've noted before that Carson Wentz is literally the last quarterback to start a full game against the Seahawks and not score 20 points.
Wow.
Oh, hey, yeah.
He has
never scored 20 points.
But my thing is if you I'm tired. I'm so tired of talking about this case.
Here's Russell Wilson, 58.87 completion percentage, which isn't great, but 962 yards in 4 games, 4-0 in regular season games, 4-0, 7 touchdowns, 1 interception, 98.9 completion rate, 11 sacks, 27 rushes for 113 yards, so 4.19 yards a carry. He doesn't go crazy running. He makes them count. But
my thing is, the difference between the Eagles and the Seahawks is on the sideline. It's Doug Pederson and Pete Carroll. Carroll is more in tune with what's going on with his team, evidently. Doug Pederson has not been in tune with what's going on with his team, and it's showing. You have a speed receiver that we talked about earlier in the podcast with Mike Kaye, that can kill defenses on a slant route, and we're not seeing that. You have Travis Fulgham, who could actually, catch contested catches, who can win that 50-50 ball, but we're not seeing him targeted until the 3rd or 4th quarter. They're going away from the run in the second half for some weird reason. Miles Sanders is not touching the ball. He touched the ball 2 times last game. But at the same time, in the second half, yes. Sorry.
Not the whole game.
No, I said it in the last game. Pete Carroll, it's a huge difference in culture and just creativity. That's why I asked earlier about, contrasting the relationship between Russell Wilson and Carroll versus Pederson and Wentz. It's Carroll and Wilson are a fit, and it's worked for them for so long. But the Eagles have stuck with Pederson no matter how bad this offense has digressed over the past couple seasons. Sorry, that's my 2 cents.
I think that the Carroll Wilson
that was more like a damn penny roll.
It's pissing me off.
I can understand your frustration because this division, if Wentz was even halfway decent, this division race would be over already.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, this is the worst division I've ever seen, and I rooted for a team that won a division at 7-9, and 7-9 might not win this division. I mean, it is incredibly terrible.
Going into the bye week, they had this division. They were 3-4-1. And they were looking at 2 games that were extremely winnable: the Giants and the Browns.
Mm-hmm.
You win those 2 games, you're over 500. You're 5-4-1, and the rest of the team, the Giants would have 2 wins right now. They'd be 2-8, and you'd be 5-4-1 to 3-7, 3-7, 2-8. how much more of a stranglehold on the division would you have? But no, they took a dump.
Yeah, and you bring up the Giants game, and Daniel Jones again is able to just run free. It's funny because
that pissed me
Wilson does
off.
not Wilson doesn't really do those read option keepers as much anymore. I think he's done like two triple option plays this season, and they were big gainers, but they seemingly want him to run less often with design runs. Like most of his rushing attempts this year have been off of scrambles. Nobody's open. He's just got to bail on the pocket and at least get 5-10 yards. And part of it is his speed is just not what it used to be. He's gained some weights. He's taken some knocks. He's taken a shitload of hits over the last 7-8 seasons. So you can see that they want to dial it down a bit so that Wilson doesn't risk getting some serious injury scrambling, because I think that's what people have feared with the scrambling quarterback. But he's been fine, other than I think 2016 when he had the knee sprain and the sprained ankle. But beyond that, you bring up the Carroll Wilson relationship, and from the start, it was going to be Matt Flynn. Matt Flynn figured, okay, he got the 3-year deal, he got the big money contract, or
That's very true.
not a super big money contract, but not insignificant. And then Wilson wins the starting job. Carroll basically molded Wilson in a way, and he believed in Wilson. And there has been a little bit of a culture war here, because we know that the Seahawks love to run the ball, or more specifically, Pete loves to run the ball. This is the first time where they've been proactively a pass-first offense. And outside of this recent stretch where he's not good in the Buffalo and the Rams game, it's worked. This is kind of the first year where Carroll has really kind of let loose a bit and quote, let Russ cook, and have Wilson lead the offense a lot more instead of relying on running game and defense, because the running game's been inconsistent this year and the defense has been consistently terrible. With the Pederson-Wentz relationship, it's kind of like a roller coaster ride, because there was the promise of the rookie season, and then the 2017 season, it looked like they were going to be Super Bowl contenders with Wentz. And then when Wentz went down and Foles ended up carrying on the team and having some great performances, it immediately brought into question, I remember, like, should the Eagles keep Foles over Wentz? Like, that was a real debate, and I'm sure you guys remember
still
that.
debate.
Yeah.
Like I said over and over, it could be the year 2136.
They both could be retired.
And,
Still debate.
well, I mean, that's over 100 years from now, so I would hope they're retired by then. And it can be the end of the world, and it could be like the last man. He thinks he's the last man. I love that show. I wish it was still around, Last Man on Earth. And
it was actually a really good show.
Oh, Will Forte was
it was hilarious.
And he's walking around the earth, and he's just, singing to himself. And all of a sudden, he sees a smoke in the distance, and it's a campsite. And he say, "Oh shit, someone's here!" Well, hey, I haven't seen anybody in years. Like, hey, how are you? Like, where are you from? And it's just a guy disheveled, and he looks up, and he's like, "The Eagles should have kept Nick Foles."
The Eagles should have started Jalen Hurts.
It's going to be a debate forever. Like, I think Wentz sucks right now. He absolutely sucks. Absolutely does. But I think no matter what Wentz does from here on out, he could light the world on fire from here on out. I don't think he's going to get his respect no matter what he does.
Absolutely
not. I think he's screwed.
Until he wins a Super Bowl and has not even blissful season.
Not even Super Bowl. If he needs to win multiple Super Bowls at this point. Because if he wins one Super Bowl, people are going to find a way to be like, no, it wasn't Wentz, it was this, it was this, it was this. But if he wins two, because I feel like that was kind of like Eli on the Giants. First time around, Eli was carried by that defense. That defense was phenomenal. O.C. Umenyiora, Michael Strahan, Jason Pierre-Paul, that whole defense. I mean, the rushing attack was devastating with Brandon Jacobs, Ahmad Bradshaw, and I forget the other guy, Derek Ward. But then the throw it and hope it completes. The second time around, I give Eli so much more credit. I mean, I think the second time around was the Patriots undefeated year, if I might be wrong. But like, I think Eli played lights out. So like, he really, I mean, I still think as a quarterback, Eli sucked. But like, those two, that second Super Bowl was like, all right, he's a Super Bowl winner. He didn't get carried. But so I think Wentz at this point, he needs 2 Super Bowls for him to get the respect.
It's gonna be tough. It's a very tough league to pull something like that off. But let's focus back on Monday. Mookie, give us your expectation and your prediction for Monday night.
Don't break my heart.
Well, that's what I'm going to be saying to the Seahawks, because it's been a while since they dropped a game out of the division to a not good team. So I expect Seattle to win this, maybe like 27-17, and the score is not that close. Wilson has cooled off quite a bit, but I think he's going to start to heat up again playing these next 4 games, meaning Eagles, Jets, Giants, Washington.
Oh, wow. What a start game. Wow.
A layup line of wins for the Seahawks.
God.
They better not drop any of those games, because it doesn't get any easier than that in terms of just overall quality of opponent.
Wow.
So I expect the defense to start really turning it up. Like these next 4 weeks, starting with Philadelphia, they have to show that they've actually turned a corner, because they were good in the second half against the Rams. They held them to 6 points, and they were good for pretty much all the Cardinals game. So against the Eagles, this is the first like clearly bad offense they played in a while. And if they can make the Eagles offense, if they can render them moods again, render them totally useless, then it's just going to be a long night for you guys again. So Wilson doesn't have to do much this time around, and really it never has against Philadelphia. But I think 25, 30 passes, very efficient performance, rely on Chris Carson and Carlos Hyde, minimize the risk of Wilson getting smacked around by Brandon Graham. I see that the Seahawks are going to be able to jump out early. Wentz will have occasionally good opportunities to beat the Seattle secondary over the top, or maybe along a crossing route or something. But I just really don't see how the Eagles win this unless the Seahawks are a really sloppy team. And they have been sloppy during this 1-3 stretch, but they had no turnovers against the Cardinals. And historically speaking, they're not a sloppy team under Wilson. Wilson ordinarily takes amazing care of the ball. And the other guys on this team have not fumbled all that much like they did last year. So, yeah, I'm expecting a Seattle win. I would like for Philadelphia to win the division, just because I really don't want to see Dallas in there in any capacity at all. But, when the Seahawks won the division at 7-9, I was one of the people who wanted to just not make the playoffs and get humiliated and go for the top 15 draft pick, get A.J. Green. Well, didn't get A.J. Green, did win the division, got Beastquake, and the rest is history. Like that, just making the playoffs that year really set off this chain of events that's clearly the best run of Seahawks football we've ever had. But is the same feeling there in Philadelphia? Like, would you want to eschew going to the playoffs this year, knowing that there's a good chance like Tampa Bay or Los Angeles could just go into Philadelphia and win easily?
I think right now it's, as things stand, is Tampa. Tampa's coming. Tom Brady's coming to Philly. See, I'm torn. Like I never want, especially with Howie Roseman at the helm, you never want to see your team lose and then, just root for the top pick. Howie Roseman can't really pick people right now.
Well, what if it's not Howie Roseman picking?
I know. I know. Let me talk, woman.
Okay.
So it's weird because there's so much top talent in this draft coming out, especially wide receiver, Jamar Chase, Devontae Smith, Rashad Bateman, and then you look, if it's a top 5 pick, do you move on from Andre Dillard to move Jordan Mailata to right tackle when Lane Johnson moves on, and get Sewell from Oregon, who's probably the best offensive tackle prospect since Tyron Smith, and then you got Michael Parsons in Penn State, who's a phenomenal linebacker. So there's a lot of places of need for the Eagles that are top picks. But right now they'd have the 19th pick, so they'd lose out on all that.
Right now, if they
win the division and they lose first round, they have the 19th pick.
Okay, just want.
So unless if they go 18, the full, if they add more and it's 18 playoff because it's canceled games, if they win the division, they lose first round, they have the 17th pick.
Okay.
But like on one hand, of course I want to see them win the division. It'll be the first time NFC East has had a repeat winner since the early 2000s, which were also the Eagles from 2001 to I think 2004. You keep the Giants, you keep the Giants and Cowboys from winning division. Maybe Washington. I don't think Washington has a chance. But then my fear is if they win the division and they go on this run of really good football, it stays how it is next year. Doug comes back. Jim Schwartz comes back. Press Taylor stays the quarterback. Everything stays. That's my fear because then we're going to
nothing changes.
We're going to be in this monotonous thing again next year. and I believe next year's schedule sucks even more.
That's if we win first, though.
No, I think next year's future schedule is bad. Just quickly, they face New Orleans again next year. They face the Chargers. Jason Herbert is looking
Justin
really
Herbert.
good. Justin Herbert, whatever.
Put some respect on his name.
They face the Chiefs next year.
Oh, God.
They face Tampa Bay. They face Atlanta with a new regime. They face the Carolina Panthers with Christian McCaffrey, Joe Brady. They face the Broncos. They face the Raiders, who are really good this year. Maybe Nelson Aguilar. No, it's going to be in Las Vegas next year.
Aguilar's not that great.
And they face whichever NFC North team finishes the same as them. So if they win the division, they face Green Bay next year. If they come in, whatever, no matter what they win, they're probably facing Minnesota next year. So it's a really rough schedule in 2021 to have the same coaching staff next year. I don't want to see that. So
I'm not torn. I'm not torn at all. I'd rather this team lose out, honestly. I want that top 10 pick because I want a new regime to come in. I want this whole thing just to be wiped out. I want Carson Wentz to have the ability to start fresh with a new head coach, a young offensive mind possibly. You know, you're talking about the Chiefs offensive coordinator. You're talking about Joe Brady, like somebody of that sort. Come in, new staff, and possibly give us a modern-day NFL offense because our offense is, as you mentioned before, it's pretty much played out at this point. Everybody's running the RPO. Everybody's running the read option.
And when Jalen Hurts comes in, everybody knows what's coming.
Yeah, like it's no question about it. Like, you know what the Eagles are doing. I do a better job of calling plays on Madden.
Probably not.
No, I definitely don't play me. I'm good at Madden, all right? Cut the nonsense. Anyways.
I'd
rather them start fresh.
To
lose out.
To contrast the Seahawks 4 games.
We have a tough 4-game stretch.
You got the Eagles going Seattle, New Orleans, Green Bay, Arizona. So
it's Russian roulette.
I think they start off Monday with a loss. I can't see them winning. I can't.
I said that.
I said it last week. I said it last week too. I said the beginning of the season too. I finally picked the Eagles to beat the Seahawks, and I'm changing. Last week I thought it was going to be a 30-17 loss. I was out by 8 points on Cleveland. I nailed Eagles 17. I think Seattle puts up 40 on this defense. And
I wouldn't go that far. I'll say like 23 to max 30.
No, I think it's 40 something. Maybe I'll say 40 on the dot to 24.
I'll say max
and
30,
24.
honestly.
24 is a stretch, but I'll just put them in the 20s and score 20 for the first time against Seattle and Carson and Eagles. Recent history. But I don't see this defense with the speed that Seattle has on offense. Really, the only guy they can keep up with them right now is Darius Slay.
And he can't cover 2 receivers at the same time, unfortunately.
You can't cover Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf at the same time.
Well, if the Seahawks get 40-something, I would think there would be a lot of turnovers involved, a lot of short fields, because Seattle's been amazing at scoring off of turnovers. And I would expect Seattle's been blitzing a lot this year, even though they probably want to do that less with Dunlap in the lineup. Jamal Adams, he's way better as a pass rusher than he is as a cover guy. And I think they're still trying to figure out how to use him properly because he's been out for a lot of the season with the groin injury. But if Wentz is going to be a sitting duck in the pocket, they're going to blitz Adams over and over and over again. And it's going to be up to
you got Jamal Adams now, too. I mean, I know he hasn't been really good since he come over, but still, Jamal Adams.
I'll go 27-13 Seattle. I don't think it's that big of an embarrassment.
I think
let's respect the defense a little bit.
I'm not.
A little bit.
I would respect the Eagles' pass defense because, and not the secondary really, but more of the pass rush. Like, I love Brandon Graham and I love Fletcher Cox, so I would think that they could cause some problems for the Seahawks offensive line. But the linebackers, like, those are anonymous dudes. And then the secondary.
Hey, put some respect on Alex Singleton's name.
No, you know what? Let's acknowledge this real quick. Mookie's the first person to actually just outright say it and call out the linebackers of all the people that we've interviewed to this point. So give him credit for that. Let him say it.
It's like Alex Singleton, a Seahawks legend, by staying on the practice squad for like 2 days before he went to Canada. But the secondary, like Jalen Mills, he seems to be somebody who just exists. And
imagine Avonte Maddox guarding DK Metcalf.
I don't want to imagine it. It's bad enough
we
can see
in
reality.
You saw it in the playoff game. Like, Metcalf torched the Eagles secondary.
Well, that was Marcus Epps. Marcus Epps back there, single high over DK Metcalf for whatever godforsaken reason.
Little disclaimer: Marcus Epps is still on the team.
Okay, well, I'm done here. Goodbye.
That's probably what you're hoping Pederson says, and how Howie Roseman at this rate.
Somebody say it, please, and just let's start this thing over and
someone just give up.
Yeah, pretty much. But Mookie, thank you for coming on. Honestly, man, it's funny because we're usually not negative, but at this point, it's just fun because we're coming off a Super Bowl high, and this team has been just digressing every season, and we've gotten to I think rock bottom at this point. But thank you for coming on to talk Seahawks and Eagles, man. We truly appreciate it. For our listeners that this is the first time they're hearing of you, where can they find you and your work?
You can find my work over at Field Gulls. I'm the managing editor there. That's the Seattle Seahawks SB Nation blog. And I'm also an associate editor for BloodyElbow.com. So if you're a fan of boxing, UFC, MMA in general, then I do a lot of work there too. My Twitter handle is @Mookie Alexander. So if any Eagles fans want to shit talk me over the next few days, feel free to. Although I don't think you're necessarily in the mood to do that. It seems like you guys are more wanting to shit talk yourselves.
They're more focused on Jalen Hurts and Carson Wentz.
It's a civil war. And
it's terrible. 100%. It's terrible out here.
We have the Jalen Hurts defenders versus the Carson Wentz defenders.
And we haven't seen Jalen Hurts do anything. That's the wild part. But let's anyways,
yeah.
I'm Brian Cameron. He's Chris Infante. This is Flippin' the Birds. Make sure you guys tune in next week, and make sure you guys, one more time, Chris, what's the contest for everybody for the free watch?
You know what? At first I said you got to follow us, and we love the 5-star rating. So one way you can enter is 5-star us on don't 5-star us. Do you remember that in high school? You got 5-star on your back, and that hurt so bad. I used to do that to people all the time. And you screenshot it, put it in, send it to us, and we'll put you in. Or Flippin' the Birds is at. We lost a follower. We're at 956 followers. We're 44 away from 1,000. We hit 1K throughout the week. Before next pod, we'll give away the watch to one of our followers randomly. We'll just do it.
Yeah, that sounds good to me. All right.
We're just 44 within the next week. Do the math.
Right. Let's see how it is. Make sure you guys tune in next week, and just Flipping the Birds.
Go Birds, I guess.
Yes, sir.